beautiful hills of Scotland. I love the forest, and we're going to walk back down through the forest and share some thoughts. But these hills, the hills of the Highlands, is where I feel most at home. Some would say they are bleak and barren, but I like it here. I feel still, I feel silent, I feel at peace. You know, as a consequence of what I went through in childhood, in the violation of many boundaries, I didn't know how to govern myself, how to protect myself, and the truth is I couldn't protect myself. At no point in my life was I able to protect myself until now. At no point did I understand what no meant. And because I couldn't govern my boundaries, I didn't know what that meant. I did pretty much anything to survive. Pretty much anything to get basic needs met. And when I was a child and a young man, that meant violence. It meant manipulation. It meant taking. And when that caused me untold suffering, and I escaped masculinity by transitioning in my 20s, you know, I just found a different way to do it, a different way to get needs met. And, you know, I just gave myself away. I used sexuality to be protected, to be desired, to be wanted. And, you know, I really cheapened myself. A lot of sorrow around those memories, a lot of sorrow that I'm still processing. You know, it's so easy to give your body away. And I made a joke of myself. And that's why I like these places. Because there's no space here for anything unnecessary, no triviality, no baggage. You bring nothing here except what you need. Mentally, psychologically, emotionally, physically. They are unforgiving places. And I like that. It's a wee dog, a beautiful Gertie. I feel at peace here. You know, the last couple of weeks, which I'm going to talk about what's been happening the last couple of weeks. I've come here every day with the wee beautiful dog. Walk up about a mile through the forest to get to this plateau. And I don't want to come back really from here. I want to stay here, I want to go further. And you know, I know that there's a melancholy here. For me there is. There's a melancholy. But there's such stillness here, such beauty. I love it. As someone under the last video said, "You're depressed." I am not depressed, and I have never been depressed. Despite everything I went through, all the reenactments of the abuse throughout my life, all the trials and tribulations, I have never been depressed. When I feel sadness, it's appropriate. When I feel melancholy, it's appropriate. When I feel joy, it's appropriate. When I laugh, when I cry, when I smile, it's appropriate. And appropriateness is hard-won wisdom. When you are performing to get basic needs met, when your boundaries are distorted and violated, learning appropriateness comes at a great cost. But I behave appropriately now. Let's get into the shelter of the forest. I behave appropriately, and it's taken me years to say no. An absolute no of self-care and self-protection. A no of respect. A no of discernment. Not the no of negation as a child. A no, a desperate attempt to get control. Unsuccessfully. It's not the no of invalidation. It's not the internalized no of wrongness. I do not accept myself. There's something wrong with me. It is my fault. I am to blame. It's not that no. This no is a no of absolute integrity. No. No one is going to violate me ever again. No. 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 Gee, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. I love it here. Blue sky. 10 minutes ago, before I started this video, it was torrential rain, and it will come back again, so I better get moving. Before I say any more, if you value what I do on this channel, if you're walking this path with me, we call it healing, but really it's expansion. It's expansion into presence, because we are contracted as beings to protect ourselves, and so we are expanding our capacity to be with the totality of our experience, past and present. And if you're walking this path with me and these videos help you, then please go to Substack and subscribe to my new channel there, or page, or whatever they call it. I make twice as much content on Substack as I do on YouTube, and I'm going to continue to do that and shift my focus over the next year to Substack. So if you want to come along on this journey with me, then go to Substack and subscribe, and we can continue to walk this path together. There is a link below this video to my Substack, and it's in the channel kind of information. Okay, what else do I want to say? You know, healing really is expansion. When we're overwhelmed, we can't feel. We cannot feel what we're experiencing, so we just store it for later, and it gets stored in the body. It gets stored in the body, and we just have to numb ourselves to it. We can't feel it, because if we feel it, it would be too much, and we couldn't function. It would break us. That's why we store it, and we store it for a later date when we have the capacity to gradually open, gradually expand, gradually make some space within which we can feel that. And so it's painful. It's painful. And it's, I notice very clearly my own process. And, you know, as I am willing to feel and willing to ask myself difficult questions and willing to notice what I do, what I say, what I think, what I feel, willing to be present, willing to expand, you know, my boundaries into new territory and challenge myself, stimulates feelings, it triggers me, things come up, and you know, I sit with them, I sit with feelings and difficult emotions, and I try my best not to turn away from them, not to deny them, not to avoid them. And as I do that, my capacity to be with them, those things, it expands. So the more you feel, the more you can feel. The more you see, the more you can see. And so as we just gently, gradually become more present, it creates some space. And in that spaciousness, you do get a brief period of, oh, wow, I can see. This beautiful place becomes more reachable. I can touch it, I can see it, I can experience it. I say, I am here. I am here. I'm here. I'm here more than I was. But then the process begins again. And in that expanded space of presence, more stuff comes up. But your capacity is broader, deeper, more real. You have more space to feel those emotions and memories that have been stored. Those emotions and memories and experiences that have been stored. So it gets easier. You feel deeply, you feel more intimately, you see more clearly, but it gets easier because your capacity is so much greater. And there she is. And so it's a long process. It has to be, because you can't do it all at once. There's no shortcuts. So it's just a gradual expansion of your capacity. And as you become more present with the totality of what you've stored up until now, it leaves you. So over the last couple of weeks, I've had loads of flashbacks. Very, very painful flashbacks. And that's why I found my way to the no that I shared earlier on, because for the first time I saw something. It was a memory that I knew was there, but it was absolutely heartbreaking for me to really witness it for the first time. And I was in a therapy session, and you know, if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I have somatic therapy. We work with the body and where the emotions are stored. And because I'm quite far from home with the wee Gertie, there she is, with the wee Gertie here, I couldn't get my one-on-one session because I'm too far away. So we did a Zoom session, we did a video call, and it's still powerful. It's not quite the same, but it's still powerful. And probably because I've been here for about nearly 2 weeks now, and I've been up here a lot, and you know, there's, you know, I know those barren hills, I just love it. I may have said that. And so there's space there, and I've been thinking about why the solitude is so important to me, why the unforgiving nature of those places is so important for me. And like I said, it's because I trivialized the gift of my life. I gave myself away, I cheapened myself. And there's no space for that there. There's no space for triviality, and I like it. And so I've been thinking about that. And then I had this session with my therapist, and I can't even remember what we were talking about, but I looked out of the window because the session was obviously difficult in some way, and I just looked out of the window, and she said, "What are you looking at?" And I was looking at the hills, those hills actually, because the house is down there, and I was looking at the hills, and she said, "Why are you doing that? Gently, why are you doing that?" And I explained why, as I've done to you, and then I had a flashback. And I saw something, and she could see I was getting upset. I started to cry, and she could see that, and she's so good. She said, "Okay, can you let me feel it with you? Can you let me in?" And I just said no. And it's the first time I've ever done that. And I will let her in to feel that with me at some point. But for now, no. And I was there. With the boy that I was, and I held him, and I said, "No one is ever going to treat you like this again. Never. No. I'm going to protect you." And it's the first time I've ever felt that absolute boundary of no. And it was a real pivotal moment for me, because I've never been able to protect myself in my life, never. You know, I've lived in desperation all my life. And because I was desperate, my attempts to protect myself were also desperate, and they just created more and more conflict. But this no is not like that. It's not a no of violence or aggression. It's an implacable no, an absolute no. I will not be violated psychologically, emotionally, or physically ever again. And there's no desperation there. There's just an internal boundary. So, she has to have a tracker on just in case she goes missing. That's what that green thing is. She's just such a lovely dog. I was crying a couple of days ago. It was Wednesday, I had the therapy session, and it's Saturday morning now. And I was crying, and she just came and climbed on my lap. She's not allowed on the furniture. And she just really was talking to my therapist on Zoom, and she just climbed onto the chair, onto my lap, and we just hugged each other. She put her head round here, and then later on that night as well, again, she's not allowed on the sofas, but I was kind of like laid back on the sofa, and she very cleverly just kind of climbed on my legs, and then she just laid across me like this on my lap and on my torso, and just put her head here, and I just hugged her because she's really small. She's very small for a lab, and so it's just been us two for the last nearly 2 weeks, just all day, every day together, and we've really fallen madly in love, and I shall miss her. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks. That's what's been going on in my journey of unfoldment, my journey of expansion into presence. And it feels very good. Feels good. I feel like more stable than I've ever felt in my life. You know, more resilient than I've ever felt in my life. You know, there are things I need, but they're very, very simple. And I know that maybe the life that I've built for myself over a very long period of time would seem unattainable to a lot of people that are going through this, and they're in a city and they feel trapped, and maybe you don't have any work, and it all seems impossible, but just small steps towards building a more balanced life. So like, I split my time. I barely make enough to survive. You know, I get donations from the channel as well, and people that reach out to me and want to talk, they also donate. So, you know, I make ends meet. I always have enough to survive, and always have enough to live and eat good food, and, you know, run my little car and buy the kit I need to be out in these places. But it took me a long time to get balance. You know, I split my time between looking after dogs and looking after people's houses, and, you know, I spend nearly every day out in places like this. And then so my time is split between doing this and, you know, talking to people that reach out, and, you know, answering emails. And sometimes I spend hours every day doing that. And then I come into nature and make these videos, and I feel that's enough for me at the moment. I would like to travel, and I will do that next year if I can afford it. That's the one thing I'd like to, the one dimension I would like to add to my life. And yeah, I require solitude. I require solitude. You know, as you walk this path, nothing is more important than truth. The truth of who you are, the truth of what happened to you, the truth of your relationship to this moment, to each person you meet, each dog that you meet, everybody. It's all about truth. Aligning with truth. And it's very simple. It's very simple. It's extremely difficult in the beginning, because we have a compromised relationship with truth, because we live in illusion to protect ourselves from harsh realities. So, but when you start to align with it, it is very simple, because you don't need to think about your selfish needs anymore. And you just do what's right. Okay, I think that's it. If I keep talking, I'm just going to move away from what I've already said and just babble. I can feel myself babbling already. See, I love the forest, but I prefer it on the hills. Come on, wee dog. So, again, it'll sound like a stock record now. If you want to keep walking this path with me, please go to Substack and subscribe. And if you can afford the $8 a month, you get extra content. Thank you to everyone that does donate. I really, really appreciate it. You know, I try to offer something of value. I put my heart and soul into these videos. And that's what I do. That's it. I'll leave it there. Okay, take care. I'll see you soon. Bye.